Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Reason We Learn. I'm your host, Deb Philman. At The Reason We Learn, we aspire to be part of the solution. The purpose of this show is to take a good, honest, potentially painful look at the way kids are being educated. We know we can do better, and this is where we'll talk about how. Let's learn something. Good afternoon, men and gentle ladies. So I'm sorry I'm a little slow in the uptake at the moment. I'm just a little overwhelmed by the response to my call for more information about certain topics. It's like my DMs just went boom, 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 boom. So that's why I created the show. But before we dive into our new wonderful show, Dissident Dispatch, if you like this channel and you like the content that I bring you here, I would like to please ask for your subscription. Doesn't cost anything to hit the subscribe button. Does help the algorithm though. It really, really does. And as you can probably imagine, YouTube doesn't really prefer my content. So I would like it to get seen by more people. And obviously, I don't like having to put ads on this stuff, but it does keep the lights on. So anything that anybody would like to throw my way by support is also helpful. But honestly, just the liking, the sharing, the commenting, it all really helps a lot. Interaction it's worth its weight in gold because then more people will see the content. And that's really my goal here. Thank you for Marby Dog for preferring my content. I like it. I think it's okay. I mean, we always try to improve, but YouTube does not prefer it. So it may or may not get seen. They're throttling me at the moment. It looks like, I don't know. Can you guys see me okay? I hope that you can, because of my other screen, it looks like I'm spinning. So I don't know if it's being throttled. Oh, it looks better now. Okay. So let's get started. I have a lot of different stories to tell you today. They don't really follow a theme, but I will say that we're going to be going backwards a little. I think it's sort of backwards to talk some more about CRT and social justice and things that we haven't talked about on this show or on this channel rather much recently because we've been moving on to SEL and so forth and so on. But I hope I've made it clear that social justice is kind of the thing. It's the focus. That's the big term that you hear a lot. You might hear equity or social justice as the umbrella term that covers everything. It will cover, the critical race theory. It'll cover SEL type of lessons. It might cover gender ideology and all that sort of stuff. Comprehensive sex ed, ethnic studies, African American studies, all of these pieces of the curriculum puzzle. If you ask questions about why are we doing this, or why are we doing restorative justice, why are we doing, pick a topic, right? The answer is going to be, well, social justice or diversity, equity, inclusion, equity, something like that. So I had somebody contact me yesterday anonymously, a teacher in Florida in Pinellas County. Is a relatively new teacher, kind of a career switch. But this teacher contacted me with the following note, the following letter. I would like to remain anonymous. I'm a Florida elementary teacher. Last year, a few of the third grade teachers made a large bulletin board in the copy room labeled Equity, subtitled Social Justice Standards. I read through the text, and it is designed to teach in the classroom. I would like you to see, what it is, right? They basically read, the student will participate in leftist activism. That's in quotes. I need to talk about this. I need to find a way to, to see if they're still doing this. As he goes on, there's a bunch of other stuff. And it says, I say he, it could be she. I honestly don't know. This person's anonymous. They say, our book study for next year is Culturally Responsive Teaching and the Brain by Zaretta Hammond. I'm hoping Florida will be enforcing the new legislation in some way to stop woke parental rights in education. Teachers and parents need a statewide mechanism or tip line to report clear and specific violations. You know that most teachers, even socially conservative teachers, are not aware of the dangerous and subversive tactics of the corporate radical left. Um, we all just need to realize that DEI, social justice, Marxism, etc., it's in the classrooms, and I'm really scared for my job. The big reason I stayed with the school is they're not as overly zealous with the social justice as other places, et cetera, and so forth. Thank you for your help. So I'm going to share a screen to show you the picture that this person sent me, um, to show what went up on the bulletin board. Here it is. Hopefully you can see it. On the left, it says the social justice standards. Can you guys hear me okay? The social justice standards are a roadmap for anti-bias education at every stage of K-12 instruction. Comprised of anchor standards and age-appropriate learning outcomes, the standards provide a common language and organizational structure educators can use to guide curriculum development and make schools more just and equitable. You'll notice the absence of any glossary defining just or equitable here. Divided into 4 domains. This is what the teacher wanted me to look at specifically. Identity, diversity, justice, and action. Action being, one of the key ones here, right? Activist. The standards recognize that in today's diverse classrooms, students need knowledge and skills related to both prejudice reduction and collective action. Do y'all agree with that? First of all, like as parents, yeah, I know you can't read it. That's why I'm reading it aloud. It's really tiny and kind of fuzzy. So would you agree with that? Listen to that statement again. Together, these domains, remember the domains are identity, diversity, justice, and action, IDJA, represent those are the standards. Recognize that in today's diverse classrooms, as if they're going to spend the rest of their lives in classrooms, right? Students need knowledge and skills related to both prejudice reduction and collective action. I would have assumed it was up to the school and the teacher to make sure there's not prejudice going on in the classroom. I also would assume it's up to the adults to worry about outside activism and things to change the world, not the kids who don't have any knowledge yet. Together, these domains represent a continuum of engagement in anti-bias, multicultural, and social justice education. Please feel free to take a copy for yourself. And then what they did was they printed up multiple copies of these domains and slipped them inside one of those holders, tacked that to the bulletin board so you could take your own copy. Isn't that considerate? Isn't that nice of them? Now, you might be wondering, who decided to do this? Who decided these were the standards for this elementary school? Who decided to post this on the bulletin board? I asked that question, and the teacher told me it was a few first grade teachers, parts of the third grade team, people who wear like ally shirts to school, but just teachers. Teachers went to the principal, who retired at the end of last year because this principal was on the older side, I think in her 70s. They went to the principal and said, hey, I don't know what they said. I wasn't there, but, they asked, can we put these social justice standards on the bulletin board for everyone to take a copy, whatever? And the principal, who by all accounts is on the socially conservative side, according to this teacher, was like, sure, that sounds good. What? That sounds good. Okay, let's do that. Didn't know because remember, what's been specifically banned or, can't talk about sex specifically with kids. Okay, I've got that. Shouldn't, segregate the kids. Okay, can't do that. Does what I just read make it clear that any of that's going to go on? Or does it sound fluffy? Like, oh, it's like outcomes, social just, equitable, blah, blah. Word salad, right? Okay. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Well, that was the picture from the break room. And what the teacher is concerned about is while Florida is one of the freest states in the nation when it comes to parental rights, and they've gone to great lengths to codify this into law, and that's fabulous. And I'm so on board with that. But what good is it if there's no teeth? What good is it if there's not a mechanism to quickly jump on this or prevent it in the first place? What do you mean, Deb? What might do that? Okay, I'll tell you. How about principal is approached by teachers with something they printed off the internet? Principal says, I'm going to have to check this out. I'll get back to you. Principal takes a look at the state standards, takes a look at what's been approved by the school board, what's been approved by the state as far as curriculum materials, goes back to the teachers perhaps and says, show me precisely how this aligns with the state standards and does not violate any of them or any of the, the laws or whatever. Show me how it's okay. And that's just the baseline for me to consider it. Then what I want you to do is I want you to tell me specifically how this benefits the children and give me examples. Like, I want to see a lesson plan. What are you going to do in the class? Because I haven't seen this before. I don't know. I'm not going to just give you permission to put in some standards and domains into the elementary school classrooms with young, impressionable children because you printed some shit off the internet. And then the teachers have a little homework to do, and they might be able to do it and come back with a bunch of gobbledygook BS. Okay. Principal then may go to the superintendent or whatever. And if they're smart, they say, this isn't like obviously good. I don't see how this is backed up by research. This doesn't, I don't see how this aligns with the standards. It seems kind of fluffy, to be honest with you. And we're not sure the parents would approve across the board. So let's do this. We're going to table it until the next school board meeting. We're going to ask, the superintendent's going to ask the school board, because typically the superintendent either sits on it or shows up for these meetings. We're going to ask them to bring this up as an agenda item at the school board meeting to discuss if we should do that. And, we'll see then how the parents feel. We'll put this out with the announcement, say this is what's being considered. Here's the website. Here's the material. It's not really in our normal stuff. Do you guys have any comment? Open it for, bring your comments to the meeting and open it up for comment. And not just parents, retired educators, taxpayers, etc., could bring forth their concerns. And to my way of thinking, anything that doesn't get, the thumbs up from the majority of people, because again, this is supposed to be paid for with tax dollars. I'm not going to go with the straight up mob democracy thing, but if there's a lot there, if there are too many questions, I don't know, maybe we don't do this. Maybe we don't implement these standards. How about that? But that's kind of how I would bog it the hell down. Because remember, this is extra. This wasn't pre-approved through all those curriculum review processes that they go through that are already paid for with your tax dollars. This is I printed something off the internet. I think it's really cool. I went to this professional training and this webinar that was recommended by my friends on Facebook. And they said this was really good to be an ally. And then I read this book by whoever, and they said, that's not how we decide what goes in the classroom, folks. That's not, I would love for teachers to be able to treat it like professionals who could bring in books and design their own curriculum, but this isn't how it works. It's public school. It's public school. Yes. Thank you, Marby. Parental right to know is greater than teacher sensibilities and feelings. If you don't like it, find a new line of work. Sorry, but that's just how it is. You have the care of young minds. Psyches. You are supposedly perpetuating the cultural knowledge and knowledge of generations to be, so that they can go on and continue to support civilization as we know it, we would hope. But no, they're so fixated on changing a world they don't even understand. They haven't spent, a lot of time living in, because remember, it was school, college, school. Nice circle. Anyway, so that's what this teacher is concerned about. Where are the teeth? This went up in October of 21. This was used for a year. And now the concern is, school's starting back up very soon. They don't know. Teacher doesn't know if this is going to be there, if this is going to be implemented. Look at what their book choice is. What was the name of the book? The book they've chosen is already The Culturally Responsive Teaching in the Brain. I'm going to go with probably not. It's probably going to be still this. But this teacher doesn't have any way to protest, doesn't know who amongst their peers agree with them, doesn't know where they could safely go without possibly losing their job. So there we are in Florida, right? And we're all like, Florida, way to go, Florida. And believe me, I've heard the governor. I was there in Florida listening to what the governor said, and I'm like, this is awesome. They're way far ahead of anybody else. And it's still not enough. If it doesn't have teeth and if there aren't consequences for teachers who go rogue and decide they're just going to implement social justice by internet standards, can you imagine? Can you imagine? I mean, this is the teachers are just printing things off. And other teachers are like, I don't think that's legit. So the other thing to know with this is your principal doesn't know everything the teachers know. Your principal wasn't educated the same way the teachers were educated. So it's not that hard sometimes for teachers to pull the wool over a principal's eyes. They're administrators. They were trained to be administrators. Some of them used to be teachers, but not many. Not many. Maybe they were teachers like ages ago, and then they're administrators now, like probably this principal. But more often than not, this is in Pinellas County, Florida. This is in Pinellas. It's a B school, so it's not a bad school. It's not in an impoverished district or anything like that. It's a B school in Pinellas County, Florida. So, you know, they go to school to become administrators. They know how to do school administration. If you hand them curriculum and say, what do you think of this? Do you think this is, da, 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 da? They may or may not know. They know how to follow the law as far as like, this is what I'm on the hook for, is to make sure we're following the standards. But the standards, remember, are not knowledge-based, they're standards-based. Like teacher will expose the children to this, teachers will cover this topic, whatever. How they do that, principal may not know what's good, what's not good, what's best practices, what isn't. I mean, don't assume. Don't assume the superintendent knows. Don't assume they're morons, but don't assume they know. Don't say, well, surely they will follow this, law, the spirit of the law, and protect kids from this kind of, surely they know what would be, a bad thing to do. And, in the classroom with this justice and action and diversity stuff. Oh, but remember, even in red states, very often they have a diversity officer, an officer of equity and inclusion or something like that. So unless the state has decided there will be no such job, there will be no such person, there will be no such salary, no equity audits, nobody who, if in theory, is above the principal, potentially above the superintendent, because all they have to do is go, well, it's a real shame you don't want to have an anti-racist school district, superintendent, right? Don't want to go along with my plans. Guess you don't really care about equality and equity. I mean, that's how they get more powerful. It's not on the org chart. They're at the same level. It's that, as we all know, they can use words as weapons. Well, I was hired to recommend things and they don't agree, so I can't do my job and you're not going to have equity. And that's how they're more powerful. So they defer to these people because the last thing they want is to be called racist. It's like your scarlet R or whatever on your chest. So if you have those in your state, it really doesn't matter what parental rights legislation you have. It doesn't matter anything you do, because those people shouldn't exist. That office shouldn't be there. It is a source for this junk. They are the ones who recommend these trainings. They're the ones who go into the classrooms and go, needs more rainbow flair. Okay. So that's that. Now let's go to the next thing I wanted to show you. And that is some more material that came my way from another one of my whistleblowers who sends me things from New Jersey. So I get things from all over the country. And this is going to be, let me see if I can present these in some kind of order. First, I'm going to go back and see what I got first, second, third, and all that, because there's so much. All right. So the first thing I received was a video. And the video is entitled Raising Anti-Racist Children. Raising Anti-Racist Children. And this blows my mind, because this video was produced by the Southern New England Conference of the United Church of Christ. Okay. But the person who sent me the information got the video by following one of the people in the video on social media, because that person has done so much work with their school district. So what happens is when you follow, and you should all do this, you should be following every human who has anything to do with your school district in any professional capacity at all, and gets noted for it or posts about it or has been in for a conference or a meeting or to do any kind of training. You need to be following these people on social media, because this parent does, and found things that were shared out and, commentary about it. So with this video, this person who works a ton in New Jersey with lots of schools, not just the particular school in Cherry Hill. In this video, the parent pointed me to a specific place, and I'm going to click to it. There's a, let's see if I can get to this. All right, hold on a second. They're going to, let's see if the book is here. Yeah. Okay. So they're going to read a book. And I kind of think, if you guys are able to hear it, that I want you to hear the book, because there's really no way to do it justice. It'll take a minute. All right. But it's called Something Happened in Our Town. And let me know right away if you can't hear it. I'm going to turn the volume on the computer up a bit, but tell me what you think about having this book read aloud to children as young as kindergarten. Okay, here we go.
Something Happened in Our Town, a child's story about racial injustice. Written by Marianne Solano, Marietta Collins, and Ann Hazard. Illustrated by Jennifer Zivoin. Narrated by Janelle Conway. Something bad happened in our town. The news was on the TV, the radio, and the internet. The grown-ups didn't think the kids knew about it. But the kids in Ms. Garcia's class heard some older kids talking about it, and they had questions. After school, Emma asked her mother, "Why did the police shoot that man?" "It was a mistake," said her mother. "I feel sad for the man and his family." "Yes, the police thought he had a gun," said her father. "It wasn't a mistake," said her sister Liz. "The cops shot him because he was black." Emma was confused. "He's brown, not black," she said. "Some black people have dark brown skin, and some have light brown skin," Emma's father explained. "Black usually means African American. Most of their ancestors were brought here from Africa as slaves." "I know what a slave is," said Emma. "That's when you have to do whatever the other person says." Yes, slaves had to do whatever white people told them to do. Even after slavery ended, white people didn't let black people live where they wanted, go to school with white people, or vote. Who are white people? White people came here from places in Europe or Russia or other countries. We are white, even though our skin is light tan. "Did our family do those bad things a long time ago?" asked Emma. "Yes," answered her mother. "Back then, many white people thought that they were better than black people, even though it wasn't true." Liz added, "Some white people still think most black men and boys are dangerous, even though they're not." "Was the man that got shot dangerous?" asked Emma. "No," her mother said. "Shooting him was a mistake. It was a mistake that's part of a pattern." "Like the pattern on my blanket?" Emma asked. "Yes, but this pattern is being nice to white people and mean to black people. It's an unfair pattern." "Suppose you had a birthday party and invited everyone in your class except the black kids," her mother said. "How would the black kids feel?" "They would be sad," Emma said. "Or mad." And you would be missing out, because you never know who is going to be your best friend, said Liz. And you can help others to be fair, said her mother.
I have to stop for a second. I mean, how many lies have been told so far in this book? But when I say lies, I mean, where we just draw a conclusion and we generalize and globalize and talk like we're still living in the 1950s or something. It's really frustrating. Remember, this is for young children.
Like telling Anna to stop teasing Ling about her name? Asked Emma. Her mother gave her a hug. Yes, just like that. In another house, Josh asked his mother, "Can police go to jail?" "Yes," said his mother. "Why do you ask?" "That white policeman who shot the black man," said Josh. "Will he go to jail?" "What he did was wrong," said his mother. "But he won't go to jail."
And how do we know this? How do we know this? It just happened. But he won't go to jail. Oh, sure, because we just know that instantly. It was a mistake, but he won't go to jail. Well, it was a mistake that officer, the female officer, didn't tase the guy in the car. She shot him. She's in jail. She's in jail. He won't go to jail because he's white. That is just a flagrant lie. That is absolutely flagrant. It makes me so mad. Thank you so much, Jeff, for the super chat. I really appreciate it. And the truth was just it was so much I had to, there was so much stuff I had to share it. So, okay, let's continue.
Said his father. "Why not?" asked Josh. "Cops stick up for each other," said Josh's brother, Malcolm, "and they don't like black men."
Did you hear that? Cops don't like black men. Cops don't like black men. There it is. There's your answer, kiddo. Cops stick up for each other. That's why he won't go to jail. Never mind the justice system. Never mind the DA. Never mind the jury. Never mind facts. Never mind due process. Cops stick up for each other. Yeah, I'll stop. It is lame. So you've gotten the gist. The next little piece that I wanted to share with you was something another one of these educators says, and that's at a different point. And so I'm going to fast forward to that point over here.
Will he go to jail?
Oh, sorry. It was supposed to be over on this other point. Where is it? It's at around 13 minutes, I think here. Okay, here we go.
Crow. She is hard at work all the time, I bet, but currently working on Black Roots, Black Voices, and Emancipatory Practices in African American Literature and Culture, which is a book-length study which explores the through line that connects slavery to mass incarceration and the attending forms of segregation and police violence. So
she works very closely with Disrupt Texts. You know that group? Okay. That's as I understand it, that she mentors students directly. She mentors students. So that's what we're going to hear a little bit about.
Piper, we are so glad you are here with us
They're
today.
so glad.
And our other guest, well known in the Southern New England Conference, is our own staff person, Debbie Kirk. Debbie is
I think
for our November 2019 and
I think I missed it. It might have been this lady talking, but so this one is working on, the through lines of slavery to incarceration. No, you know what there is? There's a through line from illiteracy to incarceration. When you don't teach kids how to read, they end up in jail. Not always, but 70% of the incarcerated males are illiterate. And that's of both races, by the way. I want to say both. I mean, all, but, white and black. All right, moving right along. Another thing that this parent sent me was information about educational equity curriculum and instruction that are being used in their district. So let's take a look at that. And so you can see what all is being disseminated to the teachers and so forth there. So this is the Educational Equity Curriculum and Instruction Compass. Here it is. Culturally relevant content, social justice orientation, collective knowledge creation. Now, you might think, okay, well, isn't that about shared knowledge? Like E.D. Hirsch talks about having a shared base of knowledge that we all know. No, it's about literally creating brand new knowledge from nothing. According to our unique little, lived experiences and so forth and so on. Equity pedagogy. So it's about individuals, relationships, and systems. A school that is educationally equitable is one in which we accept and value each individual for who she or he is. Well, that sounds good, right? And provide the structures, environment, and resources each student needs to reach their greatest potential with the long-term impact of educating globally skilled and engaged citizens and creating a more just world. There's your money fragment right there. Globally skilled. What does globally skilled mean? It doesn't mean having all the skills across, all the domains. No, it means skilled as being a globalist. Being an activist is what engaged citizens mean to create a just world. This basically means being a global activist. That's the goal. To reach their greatest potential as a global activist. So that each student gets what they need to become that. That's sort of code for we're going to sort and root out the kids who are stubbornly remaining individuals, and we're going to make sure they get what they need to become the best globally skilled and engaged citizens, creating a more just world they can be. And if they don't, well, that's really sad for them, isn't it? Okay, so let's moving on down to here. The principle of educational equity acknowledges the existence of inequity, that there are historically and currently underserved and underrepresented populations. They're underserved. We no longer are underachieving. We're no longer underperforming. We no longer, as individuals, we no longer are having any of our own individual problems. It's you're underserved. That A that you could have gotten in the class, it wasn't served to you, I guess, or something. Underrepresented students often experience inequities. Really? Experience an inequity. That's, again, passive. It happened to me. Totally unfair that I was delayed or denied graduation. I mean, I know I never showed up to class, didn't do any of the work, failed the test, was rude to the teacher, hit my peers over the head with a chair, but I was delayed or denied graduation. And that is just, I shouldn't experience that inequity. High rates of discipline or suspension. Of course, I didn't do anything wrong. Math or reading skills below grade level. Certainly my teachers couldn't be at fault. The curriculum couldn't be at fault. The whole environment couldn't possibly be impossible to learn in because of the aforementioned chair hitting people. Academic course or program tracking and misplacement. That does happen again, but why is that not the school's fault? Because they're incompetent and they don't really know how to evaluate people. And they're the ones making judgments, not anybody in the outer society. And maybe they're doing it out of convenience. Ever think of that? Okay. Low teacher expectations. Well, what would you expect? What would you expect but low teacher expectations when you're telling them that it's this magical inequity that's happening because of some systemic problem and it's not anything they're doing or the curriculum's doing or the culture's doing or the parents are doing or a combination thereof. It's just, these horrible forces we must perpetually fight against, fist in the air. Invisibility in curriculum and instruction. That's your whole, I want to see pictures that look like me. And then unwelcoming schools are schools that don't have a lot of pictures that look like me, I guess. To create educational equity, we must remedy the social processes that create the inequity. How are you going to do that? Remedy the social processes that created inequity and the social impacts of inequity? Oh, do tell. Do tell how you plan on doing that. We must place an emphasis on traditionally understood. So we're going to give every child what they need, but place an emphasis on these kids. That's code for you don't need as much because you're not historically underserved. And I can tell that by looking at the color of your skin and your gender. Or, sorry, your gender identity. I can just tell that by looking. That's why it's so important for us to label you. By the way, I would like to eliminate the word identity and replace it with labeling, because, saying that the kid's going to find their identities, no, they're going to find their labels. Call it what it is. You want to label them. Your identity doesn't come from without. Other people don't tell you your identity. Other people can't identify you. They can label you. So we need to change that verbiage because, again, passive, they want to make it sound like it's your idea to label yourself. What 50 years ago would have been understood as unbelievably rude, not to mention bigoted, to label other people, to say, oh, I can see that you are a Black male, blah, 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 blah. Like, that would be completely rude to do that, to assign labels or to ask for them. What are your labels? Tell me all the labels that I could possibly use to refer to you by, because I need to know exactly how bigoted to feel. I mean, like, we would have just known that is completely rude. You don't do that. You don't ask someone to do it for you. What kind of selfish person are you that you need to have all that? I need to know exactly how to prejudge you. Could you just make it easier for me? But now it's like the height of evolved. What are your identities? What are your pronouns? Please list them in your bio, so I can know exactly how to judge you in advance. What else could you possibly need those for? All right. So then moving on, they have, what is equity pedagogy? The ability to discern and acknowledge inequity in the school or classroom and actively work to create it. That basically means the ability to look at everything and find what's racist about it. The game of pool is racist because reasons. Chess is racist because reason. There's nothing that you could look at and not decide there's something racist about it. Racist. Okay. Culturally relevant content. Culturally relevant content decenters dominant narratives, which is really a fancy way of saying takes the white out of it, makes them less white and less European. That's what that means. That's exactly what it means. Decenters dominant narratives. It just so happens that's the dominant culture for a reason. And it didn't get to be dominant culture because it was white. And it isn't only white. There are a lot of little component parts to our quote unquote dominant Western culture, a lot of which was brown. The people in Greece, ancient Greece, were not exactly what you might call white like I am. Okay. So this is ridiculous, but they have this racist mindset that anything that is currently centered is attached to whiteness, is attached to dominant culture. It's bad. So we got to get rid of that. Collective knowledge creation. Teaching and learning is rooted in student inquiry. Remember, I told you they were going to literally create knowledge out of nothing? Student inquiry. These are kids who don't know anything. And students are respected as content and expertise resources. Really? Students are respected as content and expertise resources. I'm sorry. I love children, and they can be quite bright, but they're also dumb as a bag of hair, especially in elementary school when it comes to knowing things. They don't know anything. Okay? Until I was about 10, I thought orange juice was spelled very differently because I'd always heard it as orange juice as one word because my dad said orange juice. I thought newspaper was spelled newspaper because of how I heard it. Am I a reliable resource of knowledge? Not really. Am I stupid, like cognitively stupid? No, I'm ignorant. They're ignorant. They don't know anything. There are a lot of mistakes, a lot of things. I just learned yesterday, maybe you guys don't know this, that coleslaw is Dutch. The etymology for coleslaw is from the Dutch of cabbage salad. Cole and slaw. Coleslaw. That's where it comes from. That's Dutch. Our culture is made up of a true melting pot. But how many people do you know would call coleslaw white food? Just white. Not Dutch. Not something, it's not this wonderful tapestry of all different cultures. Just white. Okay. But we're supposed to rely on the students. Sure. Okay. Social justice orientation, schools infused. Is that like where you squirt the juice in the turkey? With a social justice orientation, understand that schools operate within, are influenced by, and contribute to larger societal injustices or justice. Now, this one is tough because I understand as an individual that schools do absolutely operate within and are influenced by and contribute to larger societal injustices or justice. Absolutely they do. How could they help? They're educating young people. They're teaching them about their culture, their history, the law. They're teaching them how to read and do math and all that. So yes, absolutely. They are the center of either good or bad things. That's why this channel exists, because I happen to think right now is tilted very heavily towards the center of being bad. But that's not what they're talking about. Like everything else, they take something good and they make it something not good. So there's this thing that we could all sort of agree on. That's a statement of fact. Okay. But then it says classrooms practice and model justice, but they don't define what justice is. They don't really define what injustice is, except insofar as they tell us that these unequal outcomes up here are the fault of this hidden thing. It's not any one group of people's responsibility or the fault of some kind of incompetence here or there. It's this hidden, amorphous evil called systemic racism or whiteness. And so we have to center justice to magically get rid of that. What if we're just doing it differently? What if we're just being a different kind of racist? What if we're just being a different kind of bigoted? What if we're just focusing heavily on preferring some kind of people to other kind of people this time? So they don't define justice based on principles or logic or anything related to ethics or morality. It's based on outcomes. And that's its problem. Okay. So what I want to show you next is they have a guide for using the indicators of effectiveness for self-reflection or staff or school evaluation. How would you like to be a teacher in this environment? If you're at the beginning level, this is a new concept or facet of my professional practice. I'm unfamiliar or inexperienced with this competency. And the indicator is not present in your classroom. Oh, I'm sorry, you're not doing it right. Developing. I consider myself to need more experience learning with this indicator. It's like I need more. I mean, this is like cult stuff. I'm just beginning my faith journey. Like I need more help. I need to pray more. I need to do more. I need to go do more, whatever it is for the organization, because I'm really just developing. And then proficient. I consistently and systematically attend to this indicator of effectiveness within my professional practice. I can continuously seek professional development. So that means they're going out to all the trainings put on by the Zuckerbergs and the Gateses and everybody's. Okay. This educator has consistently incorporated this indicator into their practice. This indicator is reliably present in the classroom or school, now exemplary. While I am always improving, right? You're never done. I have significant experience and I consistently and systematically attend to this, blah, 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 blah. So, all this. And then we have a rating system to rate them. Okay. And what they have to do. This is what they're rated on. Educator believes in the urgent necessity of educational equity, acknowledges the existence of inequity, and confirms through action they will not abstain from efforts to create equity. If this isn't dogma, I don't know what is. There is no disagreement allowed. If you do not agree with all of this, then you are not going to be exemplary. You're just not. It's the schools and the teachers' responsibility to ensure the high level of learning for all students, but they have to agree to this. This is a worldview. This is a theory of education. This has nothing to do with academic standards. This has nothing to do even with anything that's been tested or has research behind it. This is an ideological, borderline religious belief. Educators in school hold high academic standards for all students with differentiated instruction. There's your red flag. Differentiated instruction. So how do I have high academic standards, but I have differentiated instruction? Now you might think, well, doesn't that just mean, Deb, that you meet the kid where they are and you educate them differently? Okay, well, maybe, but remember, it's public school. Equality under the law means there's a limit to how much you can differentiate and still be fair, still be equal under the law. Are you really giving every kid exactly what they individually need? You can't possibly. You cannot possibly. You don't have enough time. You don't have enough bandwidth. You have too much other crap to do, including this. So it's one of the flaws of public school, guys. Take it or leave it. But standardization is how we make sure we are recognizing the rights of all the students. That means you have to have an equal academic standard that all the students are supposed to meet. And maybe you can scaffold and get some of them up there, but maybe you can't. And if you can't, then it's the parents' responsibility, the teachers and the parents, the schools, to try to remediate separately, deal with it, whatever. We don't have this standard and then go, oh, that's bad. Yeah. We don't have anyone getting up here, so we're gonna do this. We're gonna differentiate. We're gonna do this. But we have high standards for these people, and they're high for these guys. But we had to differentiate. What does it mean? That's what it ends up looking like. There was alignment between teaching styles and the variety of student learning styles. Oh, do tell. There's no such thing as learning styles. Robert Pundisio talked about that with me the other day. That is a red flag. Differentiated instruction, learning styles. They're both hocus pocus, bogus BS. That's woo-woo. That's not grounded in science. Okay? Educators in school minimize labels. I'm sorry, what? Wait, minimize labels? Except the ones attached to identity. Those are okay. Just the ones that have to do with, reading level A or, reading level B or this group and that group. And we're going to track according to ability, which, by the way, is the best way to differentiate instruction, is tracking by ability. But we're not allowed to do that. So I guess we have to differentiate right in the classroom. Then who the squeaky wheel is going to get that, right? So no labels except these labels. Got it. Understood. Teaching and assessments meet the needs of the wide spectrum of students, diversity, demonstrate, blah, blah. You guys get the drift, right? Then, the self-reflection, curriculum review. This is the key thing. Remember when I said we have standards-based education, not knowledge-based? And you might be wondering, well, how are the teachers choosing it? How are they doing that? Well, they're given things like this as guides. The standard says you must present American history to the students from this period to this period. Okay. Well, I'm reviewing a curriculum to do that. And this is what I'm going to be asking myself. Are the content, activities, and assessment in this lesson or unit accessible for all students? Is it aligned with grade level academic standards? Why is this content important for students to learn? So they go through all this stuff. But they're also doing it through this equity lens. They're going to look at every lesson as, is there enough equity? Can I justify that this is with the social justice, blah, blah, blah. So what do you think they're going to do? Do you think they're going to choose the 1776 project or Howard Zinn? Okay. And the same thing, educators affirm that multiple cultures, histories, and perspectives are important for comprehensive student education. Educators make changes. Educators do this. Educators do that. These are professions of faith. All of these are professions of faith. Collective knowledge creation. Again, we have one for every single thing. That's what that's all about. So I wanted to show you that. The next thing that she sent me was the actual self-assessment tool. So I just showed you how they would be rated. And then they literally, this is how much trouble they go to for these teachers. This is so crazy. Okay. This is the self-assessment tool. Cultural responsive pedagogy, self-assessment, and reflective conversations. Oh, that's that. And this is this whole thing. It focuses on 4 components. Recognizing the educational impact of cultural diversity, addressing demographic and who would want to be a teacher right now? Yeah, what does accessible mean? What this is, they're going to be self-critical to the point of ineffectiveness. This is so much time and energy on gobbledygook. Where in here is about the students performing or about any measure of skill in instructing? Notice there's no descriptions of instruction or how this is going to be done. You make things accessible. Here's some math. I made it accessible. I don't know how to teach it to you. I don't know how to instruct it to you, but there's some blocks and there's some dittos and here's some pencils. Accessible. Oh no, you know what? There's a fun game on the Chromebook. It's accessible. Go play it. Oh, you don't understand? Well, the little Chromebook will explain it to you. Look, accessible. What? Well, remember, the student's the expert, so let's ask them. Nuts. Absolutely nuts. So they have to go through that. And then we've got teacher practice rubric for culturally relevant teaching guide. Here's another one. These are all used in New Jersey and probably elsewhere. Teacher practice rubric essential questions, indicators of teacher effectiveness. Right? So look at this. Look at this. Domain 5, cultural competence. Recognizing the educational impact of cultural diversity. Unsatisfactory. Teacher is unfamiliar with his or her, his. How about they? How about they? How about them? How about it's? I mean, wow. They didn't put enough pronouns, you guys. That's a problem. Teacher is unfamiliar with his own cultural background and demonstrates little or no awareness of the relationship between the teacher's culture and student outcomes. Who gets to decide? Who decides how aware I am of my culture? Who decides what my culture is? Who the hell decides what my culture is? Obviously not me. And if I tell you I really don't, that I'm not aware as by your definition of my alleged culture, that's unsatisfactory. Oh, please do explain how this is not just a way for you to get to legitimize prejudice against me. I'll wait. Basic. Teacher demonstrates some knowledge of his or her blah, blah. And what do you have to be distinguished? You demonstrate an ongoing exploration, do the work of her or his personal culture and actively seeks out input from colleagues. Talk about insecurity. Can you tell me more about myself? Can you tell me if I'm doing a good enough job on exploring my culture and how my culture interacts with other cultures? Oh, please, I'm exploring how it affects you. Please tell me. Because, knowledge of student cultures, same thing. How do you know what I know about their culture? How do you know what their cultures are? How many different assumptions are we making now? Patterns of cultural interaction. This just opens up a can of worms for people who want to come in and say, you're just not good. You're not good enough by definition. There's nothing objective here. It's 100% subjective, according to whomever wants to lord it over you, that you're not good enough by some arbitrary standard they made up yesterday. And they'll change it tomorrow, and they'll change it the day after that, and you'll never be done, and you'll never be distinguished. Distinguished will be reserved for the people who play ball, the people who do exactly what they say, the people who are supplicants. Knowledge and use of achievement data across demographic groups to inform instructional practice. Teacher continuously gathers achievement data and consistently uses it to organize and deliver instruction. That's called tweaking it to dumb everything down enough so that everybody looks good. That's what that's called. Culture responsive classroom relationships, effective communication with parents. I mean, again, we could go on. You get the drift. This is what culturally relevant teaching guide is. This is what the teachers get. So when you hear that they're doing culturally relevant teaching in your school district, you can at least wonder if the teachers have been given this as their rubric for evaluation. And then when they tell you that teachers are fleeing, like with their hair on fire, maybe you'll know why. Like good teachers who don't want to work in a racist institution. All right, so there's that. And I'm sorry for all the snark, but I'm already seeing it over here, like Sour Q's like, oh my God, I can't even with this. Believe me, that's me. I get this stuff and I read it and I'm like, I'm so glad I left teaching when I did. I can't imagine being, 20 years in, 25 years in, whatever, and this stuff crops up and now I got to deal with it or I have to walk away from my hard-earned retirement. I got to tell you, that would not be fun. That would suck like a lot. All right. So then we're going to go back to, I wanted to just very, very quick, the snark, it's really, truly unintentional, you guys. I don't do it for effect. It's like what naturally comes out. I look at the stuff and I'm like, all right, this is learning for justice. It used to be teaching tolerance and then they changed it to be more truthful. Anyway, this is where the stuff that was printed out on the bulletin board in Pinellas County, Florida came from. This is where it came from. These social justice standards. So as you can see, all the teacher had to do was come here, go to the social justice standards, download the standards, and print them out. They're all printed here. It's like, oh, I want to put these in my school. Well, you can. Download our handy dandy printouts and you can pass it all around your school. This is what is happening. They even have this little feature, build a learning plan. And you can you could, based on the 4 domains of the social justice standards, it allows you to select meaningful student texts, choose how you'll teach them, and how you'll assess the student learning. It's all pre-made for you. Teachers don't have to come up with this at all. Isn't this handy? They can just come on here and just enter their email and their password, and they can just like put it together. And conveniently, we have some lesson plans. So like, if you didn't really want to think about it that much, you could just come in here. You could filter them by grade. Oh, let's see what they have for kindergarten. And we'll come up with, oh, look, learning how to make an impact, how to be fair, diversity, finding yourself. How do I see myself? Let's talk about identity in K through 12. The topic is race, ethnicity, gender, and sexual identity for your K through second grader. But there it all is. I mean, so when you're teaching in those domains and you're stuck, you're like, God, these are the new domains. This is the standard in my school now. And I'm an elementary school teacher. I guess I better go get some lesson plans. Well, where did this come from? Okay, I'll go to that website. Where's the lesson plan ready-made for me? Oh, there we go. I don't have to think about it. I'll print it out. I'll teach it. And I bet you're wondering, you're probably saying, okay, can you, what's some gender stuff? Like, let's take a look at that, Deb. Oh, let's do that. Okay, let's apply the filter. So if I apply the identity filter and I come down here, let's see, this has gender and sexuality. Ooh, exploring your multiple identities. Remember I said identity is not identity, it's label? Yeah, that's what that means. Okay, essential question, K through 2. What are my identities? Well, unless you have multiple personality disorder, you don't have plural identities. Again, these are labels, all right? Does my identity mean I get to do things other kids can't or keep me from doing something? Right away, we're into power dynamics. Immediately, we go from identity with kids who are too young to talk about it because they haven't formed it yet. I'm 56, still working on it. And it's in here. Nobody else can figure out what it is. Does it mean I get to do things other kids can't? Well, again, we're talking about labels. This is where power and privilege come in. Why would kindergartners need to talk about that? And we have Super Mom Saves the Day, feminization of the curriculum. Then we have this, it's okay to talk about some religions in class, but it has to be like the cool ones that are really exotic and tribal. All right. Then we have, what else? Making connections, identity artifacts museum. They make artifacts representing their identities. This is so creepy, you guys. It's just so creepy. Okay. Then the other resource I wanted to show you is Time for Kids. Time for Kids is something you can subscribe to for your students, or the school district can. It's only $5 a year per student. You can do digital and print, digital, or print. These magazines will often be found in, K through 5 classrooms. And it's just great, isn't it? Here's the thing about this is, there are no citations anywhere. So the facts they talk about, the things that they say that are true or whatever, there are no citations whatsoever to back up any of their statements. So, you go in and look at the sample. What I did was I looked at this. This is actually a quiz. This is the magazine quiz that they give to the kids after they've read something. So here we have, okay, so this is like the little sample, Meet Moxie inside the magazine. So, of course they refer the kids to Google Classroom, or the teachers. Yeah, so let's collect some more data of how the kids are using this stuff through Google. Google Forms, definitely want to collect some more data. And then we have a podcast for them to listen to. Okay, so we have best inventions of 2020. This is all, going through all these different things. And then this is the lesson plan for the teacher. Again, pre-digested, spelled out. The teacher just follows the steps, doesn't have to write their own lesson plan, doesn't have to worry about instruction, just go do this thing. And it's all about read it, regurgitate, read it, regurgitate. There's no thinking, right? These questions, like, according to someone, why is innovation so important right now? They're just going to find the line in the text. because this. That's why it says according to so-and-so. How does Crazy Cab work? Why do you think it has 2 settings? Which of the feature inventions would be so helpful to students? Blah, 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 blah. And it's all given in the text. And then they have the closing activities. They have this little brain break, kids meditation. And they have the answers, and here's the little quiz. They go through, accessibility is big with this. And, who are the main characters? What is the main problem? What is the basic storyline? Oh my God. Do you want to be a kid in this class? Do you want to do this lesson? I don't. I'm bored out of my skull. But this is the kind of stuff they do because it's ready-made. It's time. Time Magazine. Isn't that awesome? Okay, so we have that. Then we have, you guys have probably already heard about Critical Race Theory Summer School. You seen this floating around the internet? This is a thing. This is from July 24th, 2022. So it's yesterday. They have a Critical Race Theory Summer School that's been going on where they actually say what the woman just said. And this is short. It's only a minute. So I'm going to let you listen to this because I can't possibly do it justice. So hang tight.
The Republicans are trying to ban the teaching of structural racism across the country. Today, 8 states have banned the teaching of structural racism. 27 states have pen.
So that's your new term, guys. Write it down. Structural racism. That's the new thing for CRT. They've banned the teaching of structural racism. Really? I'm pretty sure neither CRT nor structural racism are mentioned in any of the bills. It's all about anti-discrimination, which applies to all people, actually. But yeah, so they've banned the teaching of structural racism. The Republicans. I hate to tell them this, but it's not exactly accepted fact that racism is structural. It's a theory. That's why it's called critical race theory. Theory, not fact, theory. Oh my God, Siri's talking to me. She thinks I'm talking to her. So let's continue, but write that down so you know what they're talking about when they say structural racism.
Bills that would ban the teaching of structural racism.
The fact that
that's a lie. This would not ban the teaching of any of this. There is nothing about these people that would be banned from any of these schools at all. Flagrant lie.
Legislating against it tells us that we've been winning. And
they're winning because we're legislating against them, segregating, whatever. Okay. But what that does tell you is they were intending to be provocative. They're intending to divide us. They're intending to turn our children. See, there's the children. There's the children. Turn the children against 2 things. Their parents, and obviously Republicans, or anything on that side of the political aisle. They want them to start as young as possible being little Democrats or little democratic socialists. And what better way than to tell them these terrible, bad people are trying to prevent you from learning about all these wonderful heroes, which is, of course, a lie. And because these children haven't read the statute, wouldn't know what it said if they did, because they can't read, half of them. They just accept it as fact. They're trying to prevent us from teaching about these people.
At the same time, it's going to take us moving collectively and in community with each other.
This is a movement for not just the season, but for a century. So we need to get ready. We need to learn. We need to know what each other knows. We need to be able to move. So this critical race theory.
I'm tired of your white supremacist lesson, says the white girl.
Summer school is an educational activist big tent to bring academics, activists, journalists, and justice-loving people who are willing to throw down in this moment because they realize how high the stakes are.
Yeah, the stakes are very high. It's called Western civilization. So that's that. Then there was this. This is a little bit of a mystery. Notice the communist fist with the little tree roots. Liberate TED. A collective, a movement, a liberatory approach to SEL, racial justice and healing. As if SEL weren't bad enough. About Liberated. Liberated's mission is to center healing, justice, and radical love. I hope you guys know what that's code for. Please tell me you know what that's code for, because I don't want to say it and end up having this video get pulled, and I don't want to get a strike. But I'm hoping you can guess what radical love is, okay? in social and emotional learning so that all children can live, learn, and thrive in the comfort of their own skin. Except they're not really going to be in the comfort of their own skin, are they? Until they have multiple surgeries and take some cross-sex hormones. Right. So anyway, this came up again. The person in New Jersey sent this to me because let me see if I can find out why, refresh my memory as to why they sent me this. Because somebody was awarded this award and it was on Facebook. Yeah, let me see if I can find it. Yeah, here is the person on Facebook. So excited to receive their award. This is kind of like it's a stipend. They get some kind of money. They get money, all right, for that. So let me go back to Liberated. And what I found really strange is I clicked this about. That's its mission. That's it. That's it. There's not Liberated Fellowship. Home tells me this. It's guided by our collective vision to center blah, blah. We read that. We hope the fellowship will connect fellows to a community of educators also working towards collective liberation. They're all enslaved. It's so sad. Support the development of fellows' skills to teach and lead at the intersection of SEL, justice, and liberation towards collective healing. They're basically teaching revolution. They're teaching Marxist revolution. Provide the space to focus on and commit to self and collective care and healing. And it goes down to talk about K-12 in the New England, Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and Vermont or New York State area only so far. Okay. The collective. Fellows will join a part of our growing collective of educators striving towards blah, blah, blah. Here's the dates. Here's the commitment. Anything? Nothing. Don't know who funds it. Frequently asked questions. I go in here and I look at the frequently asked questions. It just says the funding limits it to New England, but you don't have to be minority to apply. But I don't see who funds it. Anybody have any ideas who funds this? Nobody knows. Nobody knows who funds this. So that's that. And then let's see, what else have we got? Yes, the Dean's Equity and Inclusion Initiative. This one has, they've got this mission as leaders of design and built environment schools. We seek to nurture a diverse population of emerging scholars, teaching and research the built environment to advance socio-ecological and spatial justice, equity, and inclusion. Spatial justice. Okay. Partner schools. These are universities, but this tells you how some of this crap gets in there. Here are some of your universities. Notice how many state universities. University of New Mexico, University of Oregon, University of Texas at Arlington. Let's see where else. Yale, of course. Howard University, they get federal dollars. Oregon State, North Carolina State. Yay. It's my state. University of Southern California. I think that's private. University of Michigan, University of Washington, University of Pennsylvania. That's a private school. And so on and so forth. And they're all, partner schools working on this wonderful thing towards equity and justice in the built environment. Because why should we have any buildings that are not focused on equity and justice, right? So there's that. And finally, I wanted to give you some good news. I think I've shared this before in my locals, but I want to give this to you. I'm going to give you the link in the comments. Boy. This is put out by Courage is a Habit. Alvin Wu shared this with me. Cult fiction. It's 8 steps to cult indoctrination, SEL. This is for you guys. This is a present for you. It's a language game. It helps you decode. It helps you decode what this crap really means. All right. So that you can be armed with, what it does, how it persuades, what the terms mean, the fiction they sell, the reality, and so forth. Like stuff you come here to get. Now you have a little handy dandy printout. Please share it widely. Please use it. Feel free to laminate it, carry it around in your purse, carry it to school board meetings, make multiple copies. Maybe put this in the break room of your school. Don't say who put it there. Whatever. See courageisahabit.org. They have other tools there. I highly recommend. So anyway, that's, I think I ran through everything. Let me see if I've got everything for this week. I already have as soon as I announced that I was doing this, oh no, I have one more thing. Sorry, one more thing. And it's actually good because I showed you the decoding thing. It will come in handy for this. One more thing. And this came from somebody on Twitter who is a parent, but also a researcher. And they sent me this parent newsletter thing. The 7 mindsets to live your ultimate life. The 7 mindsets are based on a 3-year research effort that began with the simple question, what do the world's happiest and most successful people have in common? I'd love to know how they defined happy and successful. In search of the answer, we studied many of the happiest and most successful people who ever lived. Again, how did they figure out who they were and that they were happy? I mean, successful, you probably can measure a little easier. We reviewed the most extensive and important studies on personal achievement ever conducted. We personally interviewed 400 leading experts. Well, experts, I mean, must be true. Some of the most successful men and women of the 20th and 21st centuries. We're only 22 years in, guys, but okay. Our research revealed that the answer wasn't related to gender, ethnicity, or where they lived in the world. It had nothing to do with being raised in a loving home or a broken one. It didn't matter if their family's right. You know what they're getting towards. Mindset. Well, what's so fascinating to me about this is they talk about these mindsets and what it's related to, but they don't have the first clue how you get these mindsets. They don't have the first clue. They can define what the mindsets are, but they still think that you can get them through SEL lessons that center identity, center group identity, center activism and social justice and external reward and external punishment and all the operant conditioning models that SEL is using, and arrive at these mindsets. You can just train a kid to have a good mindset. No, you can't. You literally can't. It is probably, I don't know if it's equal measure, but it is to a certain degree inborn temperament. You know, we are born with a little bit of personality. Okay. We're either predisposed. I mean, I think the ancients had it more accurate. They had the stoic, phlegmatic, sanguine, these kinds of descriptions. Pugilistic, all those kind of things. These are temperaments that they observed, and they were somewhat regularly, naturally occurring. That doesn't mean you can't overcome those with, cognitive work and things like that, and just mind over matter and learning and practice. You can to a point. But ultimately, there's some of it that's beyond your control. And then the rest of it is generally learned by modeling, not role playing, modeling. And that's something that happens, every day in your presence, your parents, your teachers, and they do it without talking about it. They just live it. They live that. I picked up on my grandfather's wonderful mindset of, just onto the walls. Life is not a dream. You got to work hard. Don't expect everything to be perfect. Life isn't fair. Whatever mindset of these that is, I got that because the guy was big in my life. He was present in my life. He was telling me stories. He didn't go, now you have to have this mindset. I mean, he would recite his little poem, but mostly he would just tell me stories of doing it. He would demonstrate doing it. He lived it. He was it and was present in my life. I didn't read, maybe literature, but it wasn't like, here's the little thing about this mindset. Okay. So what do we have? We have everything is possible mindset, provides an understanding that we're all capable of extraordinary lives. Okay, fair enough. Maybe, perhaps, sometimes. Passion first mindset teaches we're a unique expression of human life. Okay, I'll go with that. We are connected. The 100% accountable mindset teaches us we're not victims of our past. This does seem to conflict, doesn't it? With the whole, you're oppressed. We got to teach structural racism. I wonder how much they really believe in this mindset. Attitude of gratitude. I'm all for that. I'm all for gratitude. Definitely, choose the negatives. You'll likely start in a downward spiral. So in other words, so far there's a lot here to agree with. And yet this doesn't mesh with Castle at all. So are they going to actually pay attention to this? And as I said, you can't teach this. You can't teach this. You can model it. You can have them read good literature. You can, do some kind of self-reflection on why did you do what you did and, how might you do it better, and read about characters who have these mindsets and then discuss it. That you can do. But I just find it absolutely hilarious that this is going out to parents. Maybe it's going out to parents to fool them into thinking like, this is what we care about, because this doesn't bear any resemblance to what they're teaching in the classroom. Not at all. And the one I hate the most, which I don't know if it was covered in here, the growth mindset. I hate this one too. Live to give. Teaches that abundance in one's life is a cycle. To receive love, respect, and financial security, one must first learn to give those things. You can't give of yourself until you have a self. Like, you can't just get, you don't give first, and you definitely don't give to get. That, I don't like that. The live to give. No, that's self-sacrifice. That's a kind of, I don't like that. I don't like that. That's how we get, people sacrificing to narcissists endlessly. So I wonder which of those mindsets they actually teach. So that was the last thing. I'm sorry. But as I said, when I announced that I was going to do this, my inbox started filling up, and I already have an entire show for Sunday of just one program. So if I get more stuff, which I probably will, I'll have to add to that. But there's like one thing that I could do a whole hour-and-a-half show on based on something that was sent to me in my from somebody in New Jersey and somebody in Texas. Both of them simultaneously sent me the same program, the same thing, because it's that popular. It's being used that much. Extremely well funded. I'm still working on finding out who funds it, but if I can, I'll tell you. I did try to find out who funds all this stuff. As you can see, couldn't figure it out. You should be very wary about anything going into your kid's school and you don't know where the money's coming from to put it there. Who designed it? Why did they design it? Who's paying for it? So that's the other thing parents will say to me, but well, how is it getting in there? I mean, we have this budget and we bought these books and we bought this stuff and we did it. Donated by private interests. Chan Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, people like that. They are more than happy, just more than happy to just, where they're going to fund the training of the teachers and here are the materials and we'll subscribe for you and we'll do these things for you. They have grants that the teachers can apply for. They have all kinds of stuff that they give away or that the schools get for free for the school. And you may not know about it. It wasn't paid for even with your tax dollars. It's just given. Public-private partnership. So that's why you don't know all the things that are going on in your school, because they never came up in the curriculum review. They were never mentioned at the school board meeting. And you can go in and scream and yell at the school board, and the school board staring back at you like deer in headlights, like, what are they talking about? May well be honest. It's possible they have no idea. It is possible the books you're reading aloud from, which I agree should come out of the library, didn't get in there with your tax dollars in the first damn place. They were put there by some charming charitable organization that decided they should be in there, and they donated them to the schools. They put them there through a generous grant from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, through a generous grant from Chan Zuckerberg, the generosity of the such and such organization of New Jersey, of Wisconsin, of this and that, the other activist organization. They were so helpful, giving us these wonderful school library journal selections. You need to follow them, by the way, on social media. Guys, if you're not on Twitter, I hate to say this. I know Twitter is a cesspool, but if you're not on there for the sole purpose of following all these organizations and these people that are involved with your children in your school, you are missing a treasure trove of transparency. You don't have to interact with anybody. Nobody has to know you're there. Okay, you'll follow, right? So you're going to go and follow these things, but you just create an account. You really don't have to put your name, but just to follow and keep tabs on them. This is where my whistleblowers get me so much stuff. They see what they're sharing, what they value, I went to this training. I'm bringing this in my classroom this year. I'm so excited to teach this and that and the other to my second graders, etc. And then you click the link and you follow the links and you follow those links. And then you look at who funds it. And then you follow that and you follow that and you gather it all together, and including the name of that teacher. And you go on down and you have a little visit with that principal. You say, I have concerns. I have some concerns. I think it's important to know what's going on in my kid's classroom. So follow the teacher. I found they went to a professional training. Did you know about this? And it's all about critical race theory, or it's all about, gender ideology. My kid's 7. They're excited to bring pronoun lessons into the classroom. Are you aware of this? Is this okay with you? And if it is okay with them, and then you escalate to the superintendent, and then you escalate to the school board, and so on and so forth. But it is very possible that your school board has no flipping idea. This wasn't in the budget. Did you see that? I didn't see this. Did you see these books? I don't know. We didn't put them there. What? Okay. They're getting in these other ways. You do not have control over these people. And they have the law on their side to a degree. Remember, they don't have unlimited free speech. So you can push back through the superintendent and the principal to discipline someone, but the union's going to get in your way. They are, or the standards-based curriculum is going to get in your way. They're going to say, but it meets this standard of inclusion and diversity. It meets the standard of teaching language. That's what they're going to fall back on. If it's elementary school, they're going to say literacy. It's literacy. It's all about they're reading. There's words. It's literacy. We counted how many different pronouns we had in the class. It's math. I'm telling you, they're going to fall back on that because it's standards based. So to recap, what do you need to be working on? I'm going to do the same recap pretty much every week. All right. Until it's like ingrained in your brain. You need to be working on parental rights legislation in your state across all institutions, not just education, medical rights as well for parents, all of this. DSS, all of it, parental rights across the board. Okay. So that you can have the full transparency you need. Now it has to have teeth. There has to be a reporting mechanism. There has to be some kind of consequence for people who violate your parental rights. So you can't just write a piece of legislation, pass it, and call it a day. That's not going to work. All right. Number 2, you need to look for the red flags of differentiated instruction, attaching literacy to everything as opposed to, other ways to describe it, talking about cultural literacy, cultural relevance, all that, structural racism, transformative SEL, identities, all that. Okay. So look for the red flags and look for them everywhere in your kid's Chromebook. Look for them on the social media of their teachers and their principal and their superintendent. Follow what they follow. Click the links. Dive down. I know it's a pain in the butt. It's a full-time job. So next time you tell me, oh, homeschooling is so much work. Welcome to keeping tabs on your school. Okay. So you're going to have to do that while you're fighting for the parental rights. And what you're going to need to do is push hard on your state legislature and your governor and all the people involved with choosing whoever is either the superintendent or the director of public instruction or whoever heads up your, the state board of ed, that you want to bring back the knowledge-based curriculum. No more standards-based. No more standards-based. If they're still using anything related to Common Core, get it out. If they are not talking about restoring the knowledge curriculum, a la E.D. Hirsch, if you don't know who E.D. Hirsch is, go look him up, read some of his stuff, then you're not going to succeed in improving your schools, because even if you got rid of all the woke, which good luck, the standards-based curriculum allows all this crap to come in. They would never have time for this if we had a knowledge-based curriculum. If the students were going to be tested on, do they know their multiplication tables? Do they know the presidents, the first 16 presidents by the time they finish 5th grade? Do they know what the Civil War is, the Revolutionary War, and the major this and the major that? And you might think that's a lot of facts to have. Yes. Because in order to have true reading comprehension, as Robert and I discussed, you need to know a certain baseline of facts. You need to have some cultural knowledge, or none of it means a damn thing. It's like gobbledygook. It's just words. Could you pick up a quantum physics textbook right now and understand it? No, because you don't have literacy in that culture. You don't have the background knowledge to know what half the words mean. You could decode. You could read them out loud, but you might as well read Greek. And that's what's happening to your children. So yes, they need to know some stuff. They need to memorize some things. They need to have a base of knowledge. If you're going to send them to school at all, 2nd grade to 3rd grade, well, how else are you going to do it? I'm an advocate for not doing this at all. I'm an advocate for do it at home. Choose the knowledge, choose the path, do it at their pace. You know what I advocate. But if these schools are going to exist and they're going to take your tax dollars and pay for them, do you really want the next generation? The people who are going to be, even dating your homeschooled kids and marrying them or being your next governors and so forth and so on, and your leaders? Do you want these people not knowing anything and just having this standards-based gobbledygook? Feelings. Then you have to get rid of the standards-based curriculum and replace it with knowledge-based. Classical schools have it. Some of the private schools, some of the Catholic schools, some, you have to look. But it's not across the board. Okay? So those are the things you need to focus on, and I will repeat them until you get them. But that concludes the first episode of the Dissident Dispatch. And I will be back on Sunday. They will be on Sundays. Okay. Probably at the same time, unless I've got something going. I might do them a little bit later, like 5 o'clock or something, but I'm gonna have to decide on that. And it's gonna be like this. So if you miss Snarky Deb, if you miss Deb diving deep into, word salad, this is the show to watch. Make a point once a week of coming to this show. Thank you guys so much for coming. Thank you, Jeff, for the super chat. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, all the things. I really, really appreciate you. I appreciate your support so, so much. Thanks, everybody. Have a great afternoon.